We are back at the racetrack. Apologies for all of the issues there. We fell out of the session, and things have changed at the front. It is Chris Simard leading the way over Bailey Turner, AJ Servato, Keith Mato, and Brody Hayes making up your top five as the sun has set below the stands here at Charlotte. In the Florida Skin Doctor 300, we missed about 5 or 6 laps there, and hope you're joining us once again for the race, and apologies for the technical difficulties there, but so far so good, Logan. I think we didn't miss any big incidents.
Yeah, didn't miss anything except for just some good hard racing. Chris Simard has made his way up to the front of the pack. He's been battling here with Bailey Turner for over about 3 laps now, and it's been pretty fierce. Simard's holding down that top line, making some pretty fast lap times here, but at the cost of tires. At what point do you have to think, maybe I need to slow down the pace a little bit? However, again, we are still many, many laps away from the end of this one, not even a quarter of the way through it just yet, Adam.
Yeah, it's been amazing to watch this battling. As you see Simard, big slide off turn 2. That'll allow Bailey Turner on by. So they're still side by side now. 77 got it gathered up, 37 down low, trying to take that 3rd spot away. Mayato's moved into the top 5, so battling for that regular season championship. One of his competitors is out of the picture. The other one's right up here in the mix with him. So Cody Adkins, also impressive to see him still hanging tough, and could be a turnaround night for him. As big slide up the hill and nearly contacts Simard, slams the wall.
Coley does a fantastic job getting off the wall down to the bottom of the track to get around it. Nobody else collected. Just some damage there on the right front of the 77 machine. He's going to pick up that pace once again. He should be able to keep up with this group ahead. Now he's got that 88 of Eric Hutton on the inside, locked in here with Angelo Horonis right behind. Got the 31 of Jeremiah Hobbs in the picture as well. Back up towards the front, though. Bailey Turner, AJ Servato have taken up the 1 and 2 spots. Brody Hayes sits comfortably in 3rd, but here comes Keith Mato with a look around the outside. Mato, remember, 3rd place in points, 13 back from Hayes, and right now even more as Hayes has some extra points in his pocket. 37 looking to pick up this championship here tonight.
Yeah, definitely a lot of work to be done on behalf of Keith Mato if he wants to get up there and win the championship. A couple of wins this season, and he's going to have to go out there and win this one and expect the 37 to have some problems. But right now they're battling really hard. There could be some problems as here goes Hayes now, looks to the inside, 3 wide through the front stretch, and then back into turn number 1. They settle it back down to 2 wide with the 24 and 33 putting on a show here nearly a quarter of the way through the race, and I believe it's been about 27 laps since we made pit stops, so it'll be interesting to see what the strategy is going to look like as we're getting closer and closer to that window.
We've got a little bit of a run left before we see the fuel, but Adkins gets loose after contact with the wall out of turn 4. Gimbel gets a run. He's going to take it to the inside of that 55 machine. Looks to get clear through the bottom of 1 and 2. Not quite there. He's going to have a little bit of a wiggle. It's a straighten out now, clear of the 55, but nowhere to go as Mato and Coley are still side by side right ahead of him. See that heat wave. Ooh, 65 boy on the top, and no, man, Mato gets extremely loose on the bottom.
Yeah, and Coley is starting to struggle with the handling as well. He's been wiggling off of turn 2 here the last couple of laps. We'll see if he does it again this time, but Mato stuck down there in what is generally the preferred groove here at Charlotte. 65, keeping it wound up. Gets the back end a little squirrely and able to carry that momentum, though he should clear the 36. And now Gemmel goes to the outside, coming from the back after the incident there on the backstretch not too long ago. He's already worked his way towards the top 5 and see if he can go further. He was fast in practice in the top 5 in speed in terms of fastest lap time, as the top 3 now have gone single file, and it's 3 wide, almost 3 wide behind him.
Now this lead 3 I think you figured it out that just turn the laps, start to get them off the board, focus on the racing later. There's currently no extra points other than the most laps led in the race. No extra points other than that to be picked up. So there's not a lot on the table for those drivers in this early stretch. Gimmel, he's going to make a dive around Jace Coley, gets up to the 4th position. Almost got into the back bumper there, Bailey Turner, down into turn 1. So we're going to see the 6 start to compete for this lead.
Yeah, and I think that's good news for his dad, Rick, who's in the chat here. He was a little upset from the incident there on the backstretch, the big accident that happened. He was collected in, but the car looks good. We also had Seth Hatchell watching here tonight, so great to see Seth out here. Hope you're doing well, buddy, and love to see you back on track here when you're feeling back up to it. And miss you here in BTDY, that is for sure. He'd be up here competing with these guys as battle with his teammate Keith Mayato and Cody Adkins having a good strong run tonight inside the top 10. James Loveland able to recover a bit from the accident, and he's up here battling inside the top 10.
That he is. Adkins doing a great job holding it down to the bottom. The 0-2 of Loveland stuck on the top. He's got some traffic ahead. He can't really go anywhere just yet. Michael Robinson gets a big run down the backstretch. That's side by side with Adkins on entry, nearly into the back bumper of Loveland. Loveland gets a little upset on corner exit, a little bit of a wiggle, nothing doing. But you mentioned Seth there, Adam, and one of the things that we can always talk about at a racetrack like this with such a long race is that fuel strategy. Because now we have the 46 of Dallas Sullivan going a lap down here. That'll be number 1 for him. But the fuel strategy, there's a lot of drivers here on these Tuesday nights that are really good at calculating just how much fuel they can go. Seth Hatchell being one of the best to do it. The other name that comes to mind is that 24 Bailey Turner. Now, what are your thoughts on this race maybe turning into a fuel-saving race as we've had that kind of change in strategy with the competition caution?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, you go 180 laps pretty much since the first wreck to the end of the race, and then you work backwards, right? 45 laps is kind of the extent of the fuel range. That'll get you 3 pit stops to the end of this race. I don't think you're going to be able to cut it much shorter than that. If we get a couple of cautions at opportune moments, you might see some of these guys really try and do that. But I think at this point, you're kind of set to go to the end. You just got to go as long as you possibly can on the stint. We might see some guys try and do undercuts, but I don't believe there's enough fall off in these tires and in these cars. We're only about a second per lap off of the fast times of the race. So, yeah, I think it's going to be 3 pit stops to the end, and none of these guys have really made those yet. Christian Blackwell back on the racetrack was just on pit road a handful of laps ago. It's interesting to see Adrian Loya as well had pit a couple of laps later. Some of these guys at the tail end of the lead lap who have damage have an extra lap or so of fuel potentially. So yeah, that's gonna be the key. Just making sure you have enough in the tank. Don't spend as much time as somebody else on pit road.
I would have to agree with you on that. The less fuel that you have to take, the better. But the thing is, we talk about the fuel range being up to about 45 laps. I don't think any of these drivers out here are under a condition of saving. It seems like a whole lot of all-out racing, foot to the floor. Don't care what you have in the fuel cell until your spotter or your crew chief calls out, hey, it's time to come in.
Yeah, and some of these guys who are in the draft right now are going to be saving just a tiny bit more, maybe 5% more at most that they're saving. We'll go on board here with Ryan Gemmel, see if you can hear him running partial throttle. Definitely a lot of off throttle time down into the corner, but you're back on the throttle, at least to some extent, mid corner, so not a ton of time to save. Maybe Bailey Turner is doing it already, though. He's running here in that third spot, trying to get clean air to the nose. Keith Mayato looking to the inside, and Bailey is just fighting that car. I don't think there's enough, brain power to be able to do the saving and fight the race car like he is. So I'm just going to assume nobody's saving right now.
The potential of a saving strategy, I don't think, is quite here yet. It's just a lot of battling going on right now, and keeping on that throttle is going to be your best friend. The entry into the corner that we're hearing the off throttle, I think that's purely just because of how slick these tires are getting. We're at that 41 lap mark now on this run for this tire and this fuel cell. So it's now or never is where we're going to start to find out what this pit window is going to be.
Yeah, very, very close. It's been about 42 laps, so we're right in the meat of that pit window side-by-side battle. Mayato and Turner, you got to be down on that inside lane if you're going to be bringing it to pit road. So obviously Keith running up on the top side, going to probably keep it out there an extra lap or two. Bailey Turner lets him go. So we'll see if anyone announces that they are coming in here. No virtual hands out the window in iRacing. You got to communicate that over the radio, as 3 wide further back, Cody Adkins in the middle.
Oh, beating and banging off the door there, the 65. One more time as they get down to turn 1, sends Coley up into the wall. We're going to get the first one clear, but here comes Angelo Vronas. Adkins with the slide job up in front of Coley. So no more of that.
Wow.
You're not going to dent my door panel, because he's going to get a big shove from the 65. Maybe a little shunt of disapproval.
Yeah, that was a hip check there through the tri-oval. And Cody Adkins was not wasting any time. He's putting the pressure now back on Michael Robinson. Further back in this group, you got Jeremiah Hobbs, Angelo Ronis making a select start as well. Good to see him out here. Another driver who's pretty good with the strategy calls and saving. So outside the top 10 at the moment, about 3.5 seconds behind your leader. But could be a threat to go up there and battle for the win if this fuel savings are just right. Here comes Brody Hayes, your race leader, really pushing the issue on the pit road. Looks like he got it down to speed. Here comes Coley behind him, so first takers bringing it down pit road.
There it is. That is lap 45, and we're still going for some of these drivers, so that changes a little bit of that storyline. We know that these drivers have been pretty well going all out, so the fuel saving strategy not in play on this run. They completed 45 laps. You have to think the draft is helping out to extend this fuel cell.
Oh boy, big slide into the barrels.
No! Adkins collects it, but there goes the 31 of Jeremiah Hobbs right into the pit barrels. I think that was driver door as well.
Take a look at what happened here. 55 starts coming down. He gets slammed into by 31 of Jeremiah Hobbs, who obviously didn't hear him. And then you have big hit passenger side door, thankfully, but right between the suspension. So you can see the side all dented in, but hopefully still able to drive it straight, gets it back pointed in the right direction. No caution for that since it was off the racing surface, and he is getting service completed here as Eric Hutton has inherited the top spot. Rob Liedl going to jump to his outside and try and get a lap back. He's currently 2 laps down that 080 machine. And your last taker onto pit road is going to be Eric Hutton. So he's going the furthest. 30 machine of Loya is looks like he's going to be bringing it in here. Might be out of fuel, actually. And coasting it down. Good job getting onto pit road for Hutton. And we'll see where he cycles back out. But you can see Brody Hayes looks like he should inherit the top spot, potentially. As Servato just getting back up to speed. Here comes Hayes, going to pass Gemmel, then Mayato, and he might cycle in just right alongside the 33. He goes right on by, though.
33 is Travato, still not quite up to speed, struggling a little bit with the tires, trying to get it up to speed. Saw him getting loose there on the backstretch. Bailey Turner gets by as well. Brody Hayes assumes the lead here as Eric Hutton will now be passed. Finally, there he is going by on pit road on the exit lane. So Hayes, Turner, Stravato, Mayato, Gemmel make up your top 5. Loveland, Coley, Adkins, Samard, and I would assume Michael Robinson will get around Hutton here as well to make up the top 10.
Yeah, so a few guys with not great pit exchanges. We saw Mark Cofield, long time on his in and out laps there. So he'll fall a little further back, runs 14th. Ray Massey behind him, I believe both those cars with a little bit of damage from the backstretch accident. And yeah, Brody Hayes able to cycle to the front, but you know, he had to pit just a little bit early outside the window to be able to make it on a couple more stops. So he's gonna have to consider maybe giving up the lead, trying to save some fuel on this stint, as these guys pretty much nose to tail. I think Brody might be considering that here, saying he might come up a little bit short in the end if he doesn't.
Brody Hayes did spend the majority of, I think, close to 20 laps in the lead. So that's a big factor in that fuel load. The aerodynamics, obviously, you're taking on the brunt of that win at the front of the field. So you're slowing yourself down, consuming more fuel. And I like the call to fall in behind AJ Stravato and Bailey Turner here. Try to flip the script on this stint, see how long you can go. Maybe you'll see that lap 47, maybe even 48 or 49 with how well Bailey Turner can fuel save.
Yeah, and he's actually just only a lap better right now than Brody Hayes. Both those guys going to have to save to make it to the end. You know, you look at drivers like Eric Hutton, even though he's 5.5 seconds back, he's probably going to be good as long as he can be behind somebody on this stint. He's got Chris Samard not far up the road. These guys can work together, and they'll be in a good spot to not have to save anything. Samard actually pit really early in this round, so he's likely gonna have to make an extra pit stop. Max Cost, also one of the early pitters here, currently running in 13th. So I'm not sure if he was struggling with the handling, but that is something to look at. He's on the outside of the bubble looking in. Michael Robinson and I believe it was Ryan Phillips. Phillips is out of the race. Michael Robinson currently runs in front of him, so could be close for Max Cost to make it into the chase for the championship as it sits with the strategy that he's on.
Yeah, Cost is separated from that cut line by 11 points to Michael Robinson, 12 points to Ryan Phillips. As the field sits at the moment, Cost is well above Ryan Phillips. So Ryan Phillips will have a finishing position of no better than 29th. And right now, that's all we need to see for Max Cost are 12 positions above 29th. He's doing that right now. So if we can see him finish, was that equate out to 17th or better? It'll be a tie at 17th, and 16th and better would be Cost into the chase.
It's going to be interesting to see how it all cycles out with the drop weeks and everything too, because we've got that factored in currently. They're really good at uploading the points very fast in this series, so we may know who our top 12 are before we sign off for the evening. We can make some assumptions. We'll have to wait for the final calculations headed into next week. But Cost looking pretty solid right now. Has to be able to execute the rest of this race without any major problems. And right now he's a little bit off on strategy, so he may have to end up making an extra pit stop. But I believe with only 18 cars on the lead lap, it could be, it could be his final spot in the chase to lose.
That's what it's going to come down to for quite a few drivers too. Is, you want to go into the postseason with momentum. Maybe not so much going to come down to points, but you want to go into it with momentum and try to keep that momentum rolling through the postseason. That's the only way you're going to have success, especially in such a tight, tough competition field like we have on Tuesday evenings.
Yeah, and Bailey Turner's taken over the top spot once again. He took it back from the 33. I thought I heard him shut the engine off briefly last time into turn number 3. We'll go on board with him, see if he's, yeah. Wow, it was actually a pretty long time he had it shut off and coasting. So, surprising move there. I thought we would be able to make it to the end if you just go to the very extent of the fuel range. But he's trying to go a little bit further, maybe spend a little bit less time on pit road and be in a really good shape for the last 2 stints. And leading right now is not going to help, but coasting and no real pressure from Stravato to pass him I guess that's a pretty good recipe, and they're both saving, I think.
Seems like they're pretty well on the same pace there, and as follows the rest of the field. So we saw the all-out racing for the first stint after the competition caution. Now it seems to be hyper-focused on the fuel saving. You'll have a couple drivers, as we see that 31 of Jeremiah Hobbs trying to get back to the lead lap, currently 10 laps down, but back out on the track. So big shout out to you, 31, for finishing it out. See what you can do. You never know what can happen. You might see those 10 laps back and back onto the lead lap.
That'd be quite the run of cautions there, but it is technically possible. But it's interesting how this race, like you said, has transformed from all-out brawl to it's a strategy game at this point. It's playing it safe. It's running in line, trying to conserve what you can. It's almost like what you see sometimes at the Indy 500, where you'll have moments the race just is wild and crazy, but then it settles out and you've got these guys scheming in the background trying to figure out how you can leapfrog the car in front of you. And these drivers, I think they could make a pass theoretically at any point the way this car drives, but they're all out here just trying to conserve and not trying to mix it up too much.
So the curious part about this, well, two things to touch on. I was curious about the Michael Robinson Max Cost situation. Both drivers have already used their 2 drop weeks, so this race does settle it for those 2 at the back half of the top 12. But looking, forward through this race, we're here on lap 81, clicking into lap 82. We have about 30 laps before we see the next fuel window open up. That puts us right around that lap 110 area. And with our knowledge here of about 45 laps, we have the potential of a 2-stop race happening from this point. Granted, there's a lot higher chance of a 3-stop race happening, but it's on the table.
Yeah, and that's why these guys are saving so hard right now at the beginning of this run, because I don't think they want to hit the limit on fuel and have to coast it down pit road, right? They want to have like an extra lap buffer in there, and that's what they're doing. They're trying to save an extra lap or 2 buffer, so that takes the pressure off the next 2 stints, and the next 2 stops can just go as expected. But these guys are gonna have to execute perfectly, and so far you're seeing the guys who had the best run down pit road all up at the front. Everybody up here 37.4 seconds or less on pit lane. Then you start to see guys with 38, 39, 40-second times on pit road behind them. So this is just going to come down to execution, how well you get on pit road. And also drivers like Eric Hutton, they've gained a lot of time back since the cycle ended. He's got 2 extra laps of fuel in his car over AJ Servato and Bailey Turner. This could be a winning strategy. Just saved it early and then go out there and run it till it's dry for the next few.
Only time will tell here as we continue on through this race. Not quite to the halfway point just yet. Still shy of that 150-mile mark. It's been a good one so far. Just the one caution. It ended up turning into what was our competition caution. On a restart, 15 lead changes so far to this point, Adam. That's pretty impressive considering the racing really hasn't even started.
Yeah, they swapped the lead so many times there early on, and they're kind of swapping it between the 24 and the 33 right now. That's pretty much who it's left down to, but there's other guys watching on and curiously and seeing if they could get back up there. But yeah, definitely exciting stuff to opening 20 laps of this race. I'm very interested to see how it goes the remainder of the way. And I do want to give a big shout out to all the guys running out here tonight. The big purse on the table for the race win from Florida Skin Doctor here in the FloridaSkinDoctor.com 300. And we're going to step aside for a brief moment and hear from them and the rest of the series sponsors.
At Cynthia Rogers, MD Dermatology, we specialize in providing comprehensive expert care for the full spectrum of skin conditions, from complex skin diseases and skin cancer to aging concerns and aesthetic needs. With decades of combined experience in medical, surgical, and aesthetic dermatology, our team brings both deep clinical knowledge and a patient-first approach to every visit. Our practice focuses on developing personalized treatment plans tailored to each individual's skin, health, and life stage. We're located in Port St. Lucie, Florida, in the PSL Professional Center. Learn more or schedule a visit at floridaskindoctor.com.
We've been around since 1946, originated as a scrap yard and evolved into a full-on steel service center, buying and selling new steel products of light fabrication, such as cutting, shearing, bending, threading. We also run a wholesale pipe, valve, and fitting plumbing division, as well as a retail showroom outlet. And then we also are a full-on structural steel fabricator, which is the skeletal steel that you see in commercial and residential structures. We sell to a wide variety of contractors, plumbers, maintenance type personnel, underground utility companies. We sell anything from single nuts and bolts to like a typical hardware store type of feel, one fitting, to full semi-loads of pipes. We're a little deeper in our inventory, and we actually have maybe a little more specialized type of fittings and such. Stock quite a diverse inventory, so we try to keep everything here to keep you guys going.
Backed by 70 years of experience, Duncan Water Systems specializes in commercial and residential water system testing, design, installation, and maintenance. Our mission at Duncan Water Systems is to provide high-quality water solutions to every customer. We pride ourselves on being responsive, honest, and customer-oriented. Our priority is safer water for you and your family. Contact us via call, text, email, or visit us at duncanwatersystems.com.
We are back live for the FloridaSkinDoctor.com 300 here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. On lap 94, it's still AJ Stravato in the lead. Bailey Turner holds on to second. Brody Hayes in that third spot, looking to take home a regular season championship here in season 5. I'm still Logan Threlkeld. Adam Baker still controlling the cameras and the rest of the production truck. Adam, so far, we're not quite to the halfway point. We've talked quite a bit about fuel strategy. We've talked quite a bit about how these drivers have completely changed this thing. You know what I'm noticing the most? A lot of these drivers aren't getting so loose off of corner exit. That tells you right there just how conservative they're being, considering they're already 30 laps into this run.
Yeah, we're seeing lap times similar to what we were seeing after about 40, 45 laps. We're seeing those right now at lap 30 in this stint. So yeah, definitely being more conservative. The track temp, I believe, has also potentially come down. Actually, I stand corrected. It's gone up since the start of the race. That's just from these guys out here heating up the surface. But the air temperature has dropped a couple of degrees. So yeah, that's changing things up for the handling of the cars. And right now, not pushing the issue quite as much. But here comes Brody Hayes, just as I say that. Big momentum down the front stretch, trying to get the lead back.
Brody Hayes not quite in competition right now. He's got a comfortable margin over Keith Maiato in the points category. Maiato sitting in that 4th position. You know, he's in a spot where he can attack. If something happens to the 37, it's Maiato's championship. And that's it, said and done. But, you know, it's a lot of things have to happen to get to that point. And right now we're seeing one of those things that could happen. Side by side again for the lead. Hayes out on the outside. AJ Stravato, the Italian Stallion, holding it way down on the bottom. They're going to come out with Hayes just ahead of the 33. He'll be right back into the lead here, trying to click away a couple more laps and maybe take home another bonus point on the night for the most laps led. Currently held by Stravato with 33 in control. Bailey Turner has 23, and Brody Hayes just tied that with 23 laps led.
Yeah, so these guys pretty much spending equal time at the front. They've all been up here all race long. Mayato, Gemmel, Loveland kind of around the top 10 as well. Eric Hutton has been able to close back up. Angelo Ronis running out here in 8th place. Jace Coley in 9th. And Cody Adkins still having a nice solid top 10. He is a little ways off of this lead group. But still about 9 cars in the running at the front of the field. And a nice little battle back here with Michael Robinson. And Chris Samard back in 12th. Not sure what happened, but he has lost a lot of time. That could be him trying to extend his fuel run a little bit more, but has lost a lot of time doing so. Still the top 3 fighting it out. Hayes has control for the moment.
Take a look, though. Mayato is pulling just a little bit closer, but he's not forcing the issue by any means. Gemmel is content there with the 5th spot at the moment. We'll likely see him try to make a charge. We were talking about it there during the break, the possibilities here at the end of what will be the next stint. So around that lap 155 to 160 area, that's where we expect to see this get really intense. That final pit stop before we take this thing to lap 200 and see how it finishes out.
Yeah, that's going to filter out just a few more guys, likely with mistake getting either on the pit road or in their pit stops or what have you with the fuel fill ups in the next 2 stops. That'll be what makes or breaks some of these guys' races. And so far, the best in the business pretty much up here at the front. Like I said, they've been the best on pit road so far. And I would expect they would at least be in the running at the end, but we have seen drivers make mistakes getting onto pit road this season. Brody Hayes, I think the first 3-4 races of the season really struggled with pit road. A variety of mistakes, but he's fixed those as the season's gone on. But definitely an important skill to have in any form of motorsport, but especially here in a strategy race like this.
Speaking of strategy, hearing a call from the 46 of bringing it down pit road. Now Dallas Sullivan in the 19th spot, 2 laps down, not quite in the battle, but he has completed just 40 laps on this run. So interesting to see if maybe his fuel capacity maybe taking a hit because of all that damage there on the front end. The aero just not quite there for Sullivan. So that'll extend this race even longer for him, as he'll have to make at least 2 more stops to make it to the end. Now Hayes, Stravato, Turner. We've got Stravato with a 2-lap advantage over Brody Hayes, 1-lap advantage over Bailey Turner, and then he's tied on the strategy call with Keith Mayato, Ryan Gemmel, James Loveland, Angelo Ronis, and Michael Robinson back there in the 10th spot. So we've got a mixture of ideas happening and formulating up here in the top 10. The longest running one, Eric Hutton from the first stint, the 88 holding down that 7th spot. So he fell back to outside of the top 10, but he has made the drive back up close to the top 5.
Also notable, Max Kost brought it in 5 laps ago. We knew he was going to be a little bit off with his strategy, so he's brought it in already. 1 lap down now, though. He will make up some time because he's going to be running on fresh tires. So, yeah, the last time around, about a second faster than your leaders. As it looks like Samard and Cofield bring it in here, so this is going to make it difficult for them to stretch it to the end. So Samard pitting just a little bit early in the cycle last time and not able to conserve quite enough in this stint. And we would expect drivers that are going to be able to make it to the end stop around 109 or 110 or afterwards, right? I don't think anybody's making it very easily if they stop right now, as another driver brought it in. And that is going to be Ray Massey pulling it into pit road. So a few of these guys. Here comes Jace Coley as well. And the 25 of Paul Hahn. So a handful of drivers bringing it in. So the cycle is started, but as far as our knowledge goes, that is past the window.
See, this is one of those things that I like the different calls, especially coming from drivers like Ray Massey. I know Massey working with a full crew. He's got a crew chief and a spotter in his corner. So he's got, 3 brains to work out that math equation of what the fuel is doing. So this, I really like that call from the 23. I think if there's something to be done here to sneak away a strategy call win, it might come from Ray Massey.
Yes, here comes Brody Hayes, your race leader, going to bring it in again a little shorter on this run than everybody else that's up in that lead group. But he's trying to get out there, and then he should inherit the race lead when it cycles back out potentially. But just making his job a little bit more difficult on these next 2 stints to pit on the early end of it. So it's Travato, Turner, Mayato, Gemmel, and Loveland, your top 5. Eric Hutton, he could probably go a couple more laps than these guys, and we keep an eye on anybody potentially slowing down. Ronis really hot on the pit lane, full drift mode there.
Fantastic job getting down under pit speed. Does not pick up the black flag for the 029. Be able to get right back into the action once he gets that fresh set of Goodyear tires and a full fuel cell of Sunoco fuel. AJ Stravato still holds on to the front of the pack. Bailey Turner has fallen off of that back bumper. You had to imagine might be thinking about, when Stravato will be bringing it down pit road. Those two sharing a Discord call here, so they have to be working together on that call as well. Then you're going to move it back into the VSPEED teammates. Got 3 of them right in a row between Keith Mayato and Ryan Gimmel, James Loveland in the O2 as well. So you got 2 teams up here making up the top 5. A lot of things can be thought of whenever you put that many voices together. Is Bailey Turner now going to bring it down? Got a little squirrely as he hit the apron. Big time movement behind. I think that was maybe the 80 there of Lidl.
This is Eric Hutton bringing it in. That's interesting because he had an extra couple of laps but might have burned up that fuel just trying to catch back up to the lead group. So interesting to note that. But yeah, down pit road goes Bailey Turner and Eric Hutton. That leaves the top 4 drivers yet to pit. And here comes Stravato. Really a lot of speed carried in. Look at Mayato, big drive down onto pit road. Looks like he got it slowed up. Really gained a lot of time though. So nice job by him. Ryan Gemmel remains on the racetrack. So this is interesting to see. Remember, he had to start from the back of the field after the accident on lap 20, around lap 20.
And to start the race.
Yeah, and at the start of the race. And he's up here trying to extend this run. This may be, I think this is going to be the last lap for him on this stint, as he will bring it down. And he's had an issue with potentially saving enough fuel in previous races that cost him good finishes. But this time looks like he might be on the better end of that. So we'll see if he's able to sustain that here for the rest of this race. But AJ Stravato getting off pit road, and Brody Hayes, full song on the racetrack, can go right on by, bringing the 24, the 029 of Ronis, and then Jace Coley also leapfrogging a handful of drivers, making up quite a bit of time by pitting 6 laps ago. So again, early part of the cycle might be challenging for him to make it to the end, but gonna mix it up for the moment, at least with these leaders. There goes Gemmel off pit road.
You have to imagine from this point, if you pit at lap 110, theoretically you are good to lap 200 with 1 more stop. When you choose to do that stop, you could try to extend this, second to last run a little bit longer and take that, gallon or 2 less of fuel that we had mentioned. That's tenths of a second, but tenths of a second win races.
Especially on pit road. That a tenth of a second on pit road is probably a half second or more on the racetrack. And you can see pit execution times your best guys are up there in the top 5, all in the sub 37-second mark down pit lane. Gemmel, who just got off of pit road, he was just about out of drafting range of James Loveland, and so that's where things are going to get interesting for the 6. He might have extra fuel to burn, but he's going to have to use it to gain the 3.5 seconds up to the leaders.
Luckily, he does have that 25 of Paul Hahn between, so he should be able to pick up on the draft of Hahn. Might be able to push Hahn back up to the rest of the cars. But no, he's going to take a look to the inside, not going to look to save fuel. Just wants to get around right back to the action.
Yeah, Loveland, the next car up the road from him. Actually, Gemmel just picking up a good amount of time right there. Ran nearly his fastest lap of the race, just about a 10th off of it. And yeah, gained about a second on the race leader. So that is interesting to see how he's already using the extra fuel and the fresher tires, which may come into play at the end of this stint as well. Some of these guys might be able to break away. Ronas now to the top spot. Nice to see Angelo out here leading some laps. And the 24 Bailey Turner and the 33 of AJ Stravato dropping line behind. But how about Jace Coley now to the top? Going to lead some laps here.
Hey, Angelo Ronas in the lead did not last long. Coley immediately sent it to the bottom of 1 and 2, got right on by. Stravato's going to do the same thing for second place. Bailey Turner looking to follow suit. Now we have a big discrepancy between those tires that we have on our race leader. Jace Coley, lap 12, Stravato, lap 6, Bailey Turner, lap 7. So it's impressive to see Coley able to hold this pace, but, you know, again, we're talking about extra fuel being burned, and you already have extra tire wear. So at what point do you think about the strategy to say, all right, let's make this just one more stop? Is at this point, he's got 32 laps left, so about lap 152, 153, we should see Coley bring it back down. That's going to leave him with having to save potentially up to 2 laps of fuel.
Yeah, and that's just been tough here tonight. These guys are on throttle, especially the beginning part of the run, so much of the lap. And right now, I think his strategy is just get to the lead, and whatever happens, happens. You know, if the caution comes out for any reason, he's got good track position at the very least, and everybody's going to be pretty much, you know, on the same boat. And you know, we're not going to run out of tires here tonight, I don't think, unless we get a really big string of cautions here in the next 80 laps. But the 7 sets of tires, they're not going to have to use them all up tonight. And Coley just hoping that he's not going to have to make an extra pit stop, you know, to even put on an extra set.
Now remember, we did start this race with 7 available. Most of this field has only brought it down just 3 times. Angelo Ronas is the only driver to have visited pit lane 4 times. That'll be, you know, one likely just for some damage repair at that caution that we had so early on in the race. But you know, the tire limit that we have certainly will fall under that. We are now on board with Ryan Gemmel back here in that 9th position, looking to chase down James Loveland and the rest of the pack. But at the same time, I like that he's leaving plenty of room to react. We've got a whole lot of race cars up here that are all battling for position. It's been clean and green since lap 22, I believe, is when we took back off. It's a interesting call. We'll see if it pays off, but he's right there in a prime spot to take advantage of any sort of situation that could happen ahead of him.
Yeah, it looks like he's closed the gap just a little bit here, and that's going to be for his benefit in terms of fuel, as Loveland nearly runs into the back of Angelo Ronas, so that could have been what he was trying to avoid. You see he does back off just a couple more car lengths, and leaving some margin there. This is really fascinating to see 9 drivers nose to tail this far into a race after multiple pit cycles. Obviously, you know, we state the competitiveness of this league, but those guys showed up here tonight and are ready to battle for this win.
I think you just have to give another big shout out to Cody Adkins for getting these cars set up extremely well. It takes a lot of time and patience to get a setup to drive how you ideally want it and suiting the desires of the drivers as well. I know that's a big complaint on the service as a whole, is the ARCA car just doesn't quite feel like it gets loose enough for how these drivers want to drive it. And Atkins did a fantastic job of getting it to that point. We've seen plenty of action of these drivers sliding off corner exit, but it's controllable. And that's what's most important whenever you go into the setup features of the cars, is we've got a side-by-side battle for the lead. Stravato forcing the issue on the bottom. Coley losing a little bit of speed on the top line, had to get out of the throttle, looked like he's going to lose the rear end. Stravato, Turner get a huge charge across the bottom. And that 33 right back up to the top spot. Bailey Turner will look to follow. Coley in a bad spot here, might get stuck up out high and dry.
Yeah, this might be the point in the run where he's considering what he just did, going out in front, trying to use his stuff up a little bit more. Looks like a good gap between Hutton and Turner there. He'll slot right in. Now has the opportunity to maybe save a little bit and running between these guys. He's gonna have to if he wants to make it to the end. And this time though, jumps to the top side. Again, trying to keep the momentum going, and big slide that time. Here comes Hutton to the inside. So it's gonna be tough to save side by side like this and without the cars in front of you actually in your lane, but I'm sure he's starting to feel the tires a little bit here.
That high line, it chews him up, but you can find the speed just a little too early in the run. You expect to see that racing line start to slide up the track around lap 25 or 30 into the stint. Use up the rest of what you have on the ground as you make it back to that pit stop cycle. Here we are looking off the back of AJ Stravato, and you can see just how skewed out. It was interesting to watch him practice. If you're running that top line, it almost reminded me of how the Gen 4 cars and the COTs were set up, with how skewed out it was going through that top line of the corners.
Yeah, they're also, I think, kind of sliding the rears on the bottom of the racetrack. We've seen drivers who run down there really fighting the race car to just keep it down there and not slide the back end around. And yeah, you can see even just that time, AJ Stravato, the back end, just starting to peak out a little bit more as the run goes on. Really nice job, though, like you said, by Cody and the admins here to put together a nice setup for these guys to drive. And it's also funny to watch this right now. They're racing nose to tail, 68 laps to go, and they're pretty much all shutting it off in the corners. I think everyone is coasting. So it's basically race down the straightaway, shut it off, and then rinse and repeat. It's pretty funny to watch that.
Well, we had a feeling with that mix-up on the competition caution that this could turn into a fuel-saving race, and that just, in my opinion, increases the odds for the 24 to win. He's just been so good on those fuel strategy calls. Like I mentioned earlier, the only other driver in my mind that can compete with those fuel saving calls is Seth Hatchell. So it's one of those skills that takes a lot of time to perfect. Bailey Turner right now in the best seat of the house. He's got the 65 of Coley challenging to the outside again. I would say the best call is just to let him on by, use up the draft that he'll produce. If he's going to continue to run that high line, then you can get back up to the back bumper of Stravato. He's going to let that 65 slot in between. I don't think he's too mad about that right now.
Yeah, I think everybody's biding their time. 65 is pushing the issue. I mean, he is really fighting that race car at times. Off the corner right here, you see a huge slide up the hill. That'll open up the bottom side for Turner to try and complete a pass back on him. And they'll race it down through turns 1 and 2, side by side. Hutton looks on to see if there's any movement there. But looks like Turner is going to be able to complete the pass. He'll slide up in front, and then a big push from the 65 down the backstretch. That'll allow Bailey Turner to maybe look to the inside in turn 3. Not going to do it that time. And he'll get right to the back bumper and try and loosen up your race leader, AJ Stravato. But Brody Hayes, who's kind of on the short end of this stint, or he's been out here the longest, I guess. So wasn't able to run as far last time. Running in the middle, trying to save some fuel over the rest of these guys. But he wants to get up there and lead some laps, try and clinch that regular season championship and get a victory.
Now here's another interesting thing to throw into the equation, Adam. I'm just thinking about it. On that last pit stop, we have the potential of a little less fuel going in the tank, but we could even throw in the potential call of maybe just right side tires. The fall off that we're seeing right now, I think there could be a couple drivers that might try to make that call and jump a couple spots and see how it holds down.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I know with the next gen cars and some of these, other race cars, the fuel is actually what takes the longest, so you might as well put 4 tires on. With these ones, I do not know how long it takes to fuel the car offhand, but I would think you might have enough time to take all 4 tires if you're basically filling up an empty tank. But yeah, some guys might try and gain a couple of seconds and take right sides. They're struggling with a loose condition right now, for sure. That could tighten things up a little bit, or it could just make it worse.
It very well could. It's a tough call to make, and you certainly want to have some practice laps under your belt for that type of circumstance. But to my knowledge, I think a full fuel cell on these cars is somewhere in the realm of 11.7 seconds to 12.5 seconds, I believe. So a full pit stop, 4 tires, would be right around the 14-second mark. So you do have the chance to eliminate, potentially 2.5 seconds off your time in your pit stall. And that could be a big advantage for somebody like Keith Mayato sitting back in the 5th spot. He's right in the equation, but hasn't quite gotten an opportunity to make it up to the top 3. That would certainly do it as he sends it into turn 3. Nearly gets into Jace Coley, but he sends it around the outside, side by side. Coming to the front stretch, Brody Hayes is going to follow. We saw Coley struggling on the outside. Now he's struggling on the inside. The 63 of Max Cost is going to try to get around, following suit of Mayato and Hayes.
Yeah, Cost trying to get one of his 2 laps back. He's kind of on the opposite strategy. Just pit 3 laps ago, so he's actually going to have to go an extra stop even from there. And he's racing it really hard with Mayato, able to keep it wound up on the top side. He should be able to drive right by these guys. I don't know that the car has too much damage, but you can see just what fresh tires look like. Drives right around Eric Hutton and right alongside Bailey Turner on the exit of the corner. It's about a second a lap from fresh tires to what they're running right now. Nearly 30 laps into this, and he will go back to just 1 lap down, and when the pit cycle starts, he'll get back on the lead lap, but yet to make one more pit stop like the rest of the field. So likely will end up 1 lap down, and that's where things are going to get tight for him. He's the last of drivers 1 lap down in 16th. The drivers he's fighting to make it into the top 12 in points, currently running, let's see, Michael Robinson's in the top 10 in 10th place. And then Ryan Phillips, he's out of this one, is showing for me as 27th. I believe you said 29th on your scoring. But yeah, that's enough points potentially over Ryan Phillips. It's not going to be enough for Mike to pass up Michael Robinson in the standings, though.
Michael Robinson, if he can continue at the pace he's in, he should finish out in the 11th spot of the points. Max Koss has to worry about the 0-2 of James Loveland, who is running at that 7th spot. Loveland is 22 points behind Cost. It's a little bit more out of the picture, but if Cost has something happen, it's still a potential for the 0-2 of Loveland. Dallas Sullivan, however, kind of out of the equation. 3 laps down right now in 17th for the 46. The 80 of Dennis Faircloth is already out of this race, so he'll get some points, but not enough. And based off the knowledge of the current drop week situation, It's all or nothing for Cost in this race if he wants to see the top 12. But he's in a good spot to do so.
You're just going to have to execute the rest of this race perfectly and hope that he can get a top 15 finish out of it. That should be enough to cement his way into the top 12. We'll have to, again, see how everything shakes out officially, but right now still shutting the engines off up at the front of the field. AJ Stravato, Bailey Turner, Eric Hutton in that third spot. He at one point had a fuel advantage, but now pretty much even with Bailey Turner. So that was an interesting call again. He probably had to burn it up to get there. Right now the driver with the potentially the best fuel advantage is running at the tail of this pack. That is Ryan Gemmel. That 6 machine, he's right there in the mix after being caught up and stuff, having to start from the back. Could be a very satisfying win if he can go out there and get it for his first of the season to overcome all of that and put himself in a good spot so far.
Be nice to see that number 6 up on the podium here tonight. 2 laps led for him. He did end up starting, third by technicality, but at the end of the line picking up that EOL penalty from last week's race. He's back there twice. And, it's impressive to see how he can handle his car through the field and get right back into the equation.
Yeah, it's funny. I was talking to him after his race at Watkins Glen, the real ARCA race, and just we were reminiscing about some old iRacing memories that we have together. I've known Ryan for about 10 years now, and but we were talking about this new tire package. He's obviously not racing full time in the series here. He doesn't have as much time to commit to it as some of the other drivers, but just he said he struggles on the short runs. Or struggles on the long runs, good on the short runs, has that good speed, and has just struggled with the strategy a little bit this season at times. But right now, I think he's figured some stuff out because he's running, right up here in the mix. Everybody's kind of running the same times, but he's fixed the strategy, and he's on top of that. So we'll see if the long run speed comes into effect here.
Big issue for the 29, picks up a black flag on pit road entry. So that changes things between Robinson and Cost. That'll be a hold in the box here. It'll extend that pit stop up to, I believe, 45 to 50 seconds or so. That is not a good deal for the 29 team, as Max Cost, Michael Robinson, they're going to be battling it out here as lap down cars going for that final 2 spots in the top 12.
Yeah, Max just taking over the 13th position. Michael Robinson still sitting there serving that penalty. It's going to be a whole lap of time, right? It's I believe a 45-second penalty. And it looks like, they're just getting to servicing that car. He's been on pit road for over a minute. So definitely going to hurt his chances at a good finish here tonight. And also it's not going to probably knock him out of the chase. I think he's in pretty good standing with that. But not the way you'd like to end the regular season, that's for sure.
Not at all. Loveland still in the equation, so anything could happen between those 3 drivers there for that cutoff spot. As Robinson is back out on track, nearly 2 laps down, or actually is 2 laps down, nearly 3 laps down, but with the fresh tires should be able to get away from these leaders. They are all over that back bumper right now.
Yeah, and this is where things actually get even crazier because Loveland is 11 points back of Max Cost. And he's right now running 5 positions ahead of him, but Max is going to have to make another pit stop. James could go out there and win this thing. Max could finish 15th or 12th or 13th even, but if James goes out and wins this race, he may be into the top 12. That is, wow, there's a lot of things on the line here for a lot of drivers, and yeah, I think for James Loveland, he's pretty much out there to try and win this thing, and that may be his only shot into the chase for the championship. He's had a pretty solid season, just has missed a bunch of races, and that's set him behind. As 45 laps to go. Coming up next time, we'll see who elects to bring it down pit road. Should be a couple of takers here in a moment. Coley brought it in 2 laps ago. Mark Cofield, Han Robinson, Weedle, and Dallas Sullivan have already made their pit stops. Here comes Cody Adkins bringing it in here in the 55 machine.
That fuel window is open. I'm with you. I'm interested to see who's going to bring it down and, you know, try to make it as close as it can be. We've got quite a few drivers that have some left in the tank. AJ Stravato, only 42 laps completed this time. Will be starting lap 43. So he still has a small window left in the tank. That's going to extend the possibility. Well, he will be able to make it to the end from here, but it gives him that opportunity to take a little bit less fuel. That we've talked about, you know, saving those tenths is what it's all about.
Yeah, so Ronis has brought it down from inside the top 10. And you've got Blackwell also on pit road, getting service completed there. He is many laps down, but trying to complete this race, and still none of your top 7 have brought it in. So Angelo Ronis and Jace Cully already making that hopefully final pit stop on their end. Going to be a long stretch to the finish, as we'll probably see a couple of drivers. Here comes Stravato, maybe. It looked like he was slow enough to bring it down, but not going to do it. And don't see any takers that time.
The 37 of Brody Hayes would, you know, theoretically have to be the first one to bring it down. He's on lap 49 of this stint. This is the longest that we've seen that fuel cell get stretched out. He certainly has to be running on fumes. I just heard a call from the 88 of Eric Hutton coming down the backstretch. He'll be bringing it in. So we'll take a look at him as he's slow on the bottom, nearly gets clipped there by the 37 of Hayes. Safely under speed into pit road for Hutton. See how he manages this pit stall.
Yeah, he's been up here kind of competing for most of this race here tonight. So we'll see if he's able to get a good solid entry there. Does do that, so nice job. And we'll see if some of his teammates will bring it in. Here comes Brody Hayes.
Hayes is coming in.
On the pit road.
We'll have a lockup there right at that pit speed limit cone. But evidently gets it under speed. 37 into his stall all the way up at the very front. He's got the longest drive until he gets there, the shortest drive out. We have more calls coming over the radio for pit stops. Here comes Stravato. Who do we have behind? The 02 of Loveland follows suit. Out of that 5th spot, Stravato out of the lead. That'll be the only 2, it looks like this time. I'd say the rest of them are probably right there. We should see Bailey Turner, Mayato, Gimmel, everybody else bring it down here.
Yeah, Gimmel had to avoid the 0-2, caught the outside wall just a tiny bit off turn 4. And it looks like so far, though, Brody Hayes with the best execution on pit lane. Keeping an eye on the leaders. Here comes Mayato, good entry behind. Here comes Gimmel and Turner. And nice job getting down to speed there. Taking a look at pit times. AJ Stravato just a couple of tenths slower than Brody Hayes on pit road. James Loveland, though, at 36.4 down pit lane. That is an impressive run for him in the 0-2 machine down pit road. And that could cycle him out in a good spot with the rest of these guys. There goes Hutton on by AJ Stravato, Brody Hayes right there. James Loveland, they are pretty close to each other. Should be able to group back up. Cully's gonna, I believe, inherit the top spot after pitting quite a few laps ago. And then it'll be Angelo Ronis, Bailey Turner, Keith Mayato, Eric Hutton, AJ Stravato. Gamble's gonna fall all the way back to 9th here. Not a good exchange for him on pit road. So that could knock him out of the running if he's not able to catch back up to the rest of the leaders. So that's a development from that cycle. But Jace Coley, your leader by about 2.2 seconds.
Ronas running 2.2 seconds behind in second place. Eric Hutton 4.5 seconds behind the 0.29 of Ronas. And then we've got the rest of them. Stravato, Hayes, Loveland, Turner, Mayato. They're all right there within about a second and a half of each other. Ryan Gimmel falls about 3 seconds behind Keith Mayato in that 9th spot. Max Koss currently on the lead lap, 21 seconds behind as the last car on the lead lap in 10th place. Then it starts with Mark Cofield, Cody Atkins, Paul Hahn, and Michael Robinson 1 lap down. Zach Smith, Rob Liedl 2 laps down. Dallas Sullivan 4. Jake Mockey 8 laps down. Jeremiah Hobbs 10. And Christian Blackwell 15 laps down.
Yeah, everybody else out of the race. Ray Massey, Chris Samard, Colton Freymiller, Adrian Loya, Dennis Fairclough, Levi Cox, Ryan Phillips, Noah Mahalski, Alan Dice, and Lucas Lyons. All taking it behind the wall early in this one. This is an interesting way that this is shaped out here. With the 65 so far in front, theoretically could stretch it. We saw drivers go a little bit further than he's even trying to go, but he's gonna have to learn to save just a little bit. He's burned his tires up pretty fast. He can't burn the fuel up because he won't make it to the end. Angelo Ronas, though, 5 laps more fuel, and he's got a big advantage over AJ Stravato and company back there. So Angelo might have played this, you know, he was a little aggressive on the strategy, but could have played it just right.
He's, you know, right there within striking distance of Jace Coley. Coley, like you mentioned, has to focus on tire saving and fuel saving if he wants to see lap 200 on this run. So I think Angelo Ronas, he's in a really good spot. However, that gap is closing. AJ Stravato now within 3 seconds. It was 4.5 just a few moments ago. We're talking about a lap time difference of 0.4 of a second. But that math adds up perfectly to seeing Stravato right back up here with the 0.29. I don't know how long-lived a lead for Angelo Ronas will be tonight.
Yeah, that time by 0.7 faster for Stravato and Hutton and Hayes and Turner and all of these guys, right? So we've got this 3-car group of Stravato, Hutton, and Hayes. Turner and Mayato are together, and then you've got Gemmel and Loveland, who are about 3.5 seconds back. It's going to be a lot to try and make up before the end of this race, but Gemmel about a 1/10 faster and kind of on his own here without any draft, so really pushing that car. And we'll see if he's able to close up at all. That time, though, a little bit slower without the draft. So could be a tall order to try and catch up to the rest of the leaders. They'll probably get stacked up a little bit once they get to Coley and Ronas, though. Just remains to be seen how it's going to all shake out.
The good thing for Gemmel in this position is he can afford to go all out. He's got enough fuel even at the bottom end of the information that we have on the fuel run. So he came in lap 163. It leaves him with only 40 or 37 laps rather to get to the end. That's well within the range that we've been told on the fuel cell capacity here. So you'll see him foot to the floor for the remainder of the race. 3.5 seconds separate him and Mayato. And that's with Mayato, it's right back to, you know, all of them, all the way up to the top 3.
Yeah, Stravato, Hutton, Hayes, they are starting to make serious gains now on the 0.29. He's continuing to chop off about 4 or 5 tenths of a second per lap. And we're getting into crunch time here. It's under 30 laps to go. Cully is out in front by that 1.6 seconds. That hasn't changed all that much since we've completed the cycle. But what has changed is the distance back to AJ Stravato. That at one point was about 5.5, 6 seconds, and it's now down to just over 2 seconds. So yeah, they're going to be there in 5 or 6 laps, and whether or not Jace Cully can hang on with them, you know, we'll see that. Other news, Max Koss just made his final stop of the race, now going down to 2 laps down. And he may be able to get a few of those back. Looks like some of these drivers may still yet have to make another pit stop. But yeah, Koss 15th place right now as close competitor in the points. James Loveland running a few positions better. Still not quite enough for the O2 though.
It looks like Loveland is going to fall short here, but we still have plenty of race for anything to happen. And Adam, I don't know about you, but I've seen my fair share of completely standing altering outcomes here, not only in BTDY, but any of the leagues that we broadcast here on VSPEED. It's true to a fault almost that if something can happen, it will happen.
Yeah.
We're seeing a lot of movement coming down the backstretch there. Jeremiah Hobbs getting shoved out of the way. AJ Stravato said, "Get out of my line, get to the apron, let me by." We are in a heated battle up here for what will be the race lead between Stravato, Hutton, Ronis, Hayes, Turner, and Mayato once they catch up to Jace Coley.
Yeah, impressive for Bailey Turner and Keith Mayato to be able to catch up to that battle. And also Gemmel and Loveland still about 3.5, 4 seconds back. So these guys will race it up here. I don't think anybody's really going to save all that much. They're all pretty close on fuel. The only one who's probably got to save just a touch is Jace Coley up here in front, and he is losing hand over fist now. 5/10 the previous lap, now 7/10 this lap. So he may get past for the lead here before we get to the completion of lap 177.
Be tight here for the field as once we get down into turn 3, we're gonna have a couple cars that have a lap traffic car in the way on the bottom. That's the 13 of Jake Maki. It looks like everybody's gonna get navigated around the outside fairly easily, and here comes the run for Stravato. Big time run to the inside of Coley. That's nearly no competition on that entry. It's going to be smooth sailing for the 33 across that bottom line. Slots right back up in front of Jace Coley. There goes the 88 of Eric Hutton trying to do the same to the inside. Now the battle is on. Coley all the way up to the top. Hutton gets by. Turner gets by. Hayes almost into Coley. Keith Mayato right on the back bumper. No room for error right now. On board with Mayato as we dive down into turn 1 as that 5th car in line.
Top 5 nose to tail. Jace Coley going to slot in behind. And then Angelo Ronis right there battling. So those guys fighting for top 10s could have a shot at it if things get shaken up here at the front. And still a couple sets of tires for most of these drivers to burn if we do get a late caution. And man, it's going to get exciting if that happens. It's going to be an all-out brawl for anybody who's on the lead lap at that point. But right now it's developing into that naturally, which is nice to see. As big slide up the hill from Eric Hutton, he throws the block on Brody Hayes. Mayato going to give a big shove to the 24 on the inside. They'll race side by side into turn 3, and Stravato all by himself out in front.
Stravato's liking this view in the mirror. Hutton gets loose on the outside. Contact from Hayes, but Hayes backs it off. Allows Hutton to collect it back up. They're going to lose some spots. Hayes back down to the bottom behind Mayato. Hutton's still up on the top. He doesn't have room to get back down. It's going to keep Mayato from getting the optimal run off the corner. He gets some speed down the back stretch. I think here is where Mayato and Hayes might be able to get by. Still going to be side by side. Not going to be this time as Mayato gets loose on the bottom. Hayes moves up to the top to avoid it. Mayato collects it and somehow finds some speed to keep it door to door with Hutton down into turn 1. A little bit of an advantage. Now he gets clear.
Yeah, big send on turn entry. It's going to cost him on exit, though. Big bobble there. Hutton, though, going to go right to the back bumper and just shove him down the back stretch. You know, it's better to work together until it's time to really fight it out in the last 10 laps or so. Don't want to burn all your stuff off, but Hutton seems to have burned the rear tires maybe just a little bit, and Hayes is struggling to find a way around for the moment. He'll jump up high, though. See what momentum he can build up on the top side, and going to be right along the quarter panel, and Hutton is going to back out a little bit and give him the spot. Brody Hayes going to go up to the 4th position. 4 of the best here in BTDY up inside your top 4 positions. Eric Hutton, no slouch. He won a lot of races back those early seasons as well. We can never count him out. And I think he might even be conserving just a little bit as he gets it gathered back up and now puts the pressure back on Brody Hayes.
Don't forget, we're talking about positions 1 and 3 in the point standing going for this championship here tonight. Mayato is ahead of Brody Hayes. Hayes has picked up multiple bonus points here tonight, so that extends that 13-point gap to what I believe would be 16 points with the bonus point of the lap lead, the pole, and I think he was in the lead there for the stage break too. There might even be some more points on the board for Hayes, but he's going to get around Mayato here. Remember, that is teammates at play. They are both locked into the championship battle, the chase for the cup. As we get that going, there's not a whole lot on the table really for either one of those two to be making any crazy moves. Of a win to cap off the season is about the most bragging rights you're going to get. It's nearly contact for the lead. Bailey Turner pushes up the track, getting into the 33 of Stravato, gets a little loose out of turn 2, slides back up in between Stravato and Hayes.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun chase for the championship with all these guys fighting for it. You know, we're going to Rockingham next week, which is just going to be a blast. I love that racetrack, and in these ARCA cars, we've seen amazing races no matter where we go, but I would think a bumpy old short track like that be a lot of fun to watch these guys duel it out there as Hayes seeks to find some running room down on the inside. Can't find it that time. Here goes Turner, peaks down low, stays in line as they race back into turn number 3. And Hayes trying to hold off his teammate Keith Mayato, who's right back in the picture. And there's Hutton now looking back to the inside. It's impressive also, too. Angelo Ronas has been able to keep up with these guys, and he's got a multiple lap deficit to drivers like Bailey Turner. It's 6 laps the difference on tires, which makes a big difference here. And Jace Coley's falling all the way back into the clutches of Ryan Gemmell and James Loveland.
It's back there for the 7th, 8th, and 9th position. But we're closing in on 10 to go. Not quite there yet. Got 2 more laps around Charlotte Motor Speedway before that 10 lap to go. Sign comes out. Stravato still with the lead. Bailey Turner content at the moment with P2. Loveland and Gemmell both get around Jace Coley. I believe that's the 55. No, that's the 46 of Dallas Sullivan there, trying to make way around Coley as well, with heavy damage on the front end, might I add. So there's something potentially going on with the 65.
Yeah, 65 really starting to fall off here, and he's got to stretch it to the end somehow. It would be 48 laps from when he last pit, so it's going to be a tall order. Right now, currently the last car on the lead lap in 9th. That is how competitive it's been out here. These top 9 drivers have been battling it up for a long time, and they've lapped everyone else. Cody Adkins, first car 1 lap down. He's got a little tire advantage over a couple of drivers in front, but looking to try and get a top 10 finish would be a good way to end the regular season after it's been a tough first 11 races for him.
Currently on a 100 and nearly 70 lap green flag run that we've seen this top 9 battling it out, getting around the entire field, but never losing each other in this race. It is side by side for second.
Oh, contact!
Hayes gets into Turner. Oh my goodness, how'd he collect that?
Oh.
Hutton loses the front bumper by Otto into the wall. Turner still trying to collect it as we get across the front stretch. Hutton gets by without a front bumper, but that pushes Mayato back. As we're going to take it back here on the replay. Oh, Hayes just a little loose, gets Turner upset, and it's that extra contact coming from the right rear with Mayato. That is not how you want that one to go, as he will be missing the front bumper as well. That effectively hands over the championship to Brody Hayes, barring anything crazy happening to that 37.
Yeah, and he's got a shot to go up here and win the race. I think it's pretty much down to the 33 and the 37 as they got all broken up there. Bailey Turner is about 2 seconds back. Angelo Ronas now up into the top 5. Mayato has brought it in heavy damage to that car, and he's not going to be able to make it to the end without getting some of it repaired. So that is essentially the end of his race, and like you said, end of his championship fight, as Brody Hayes, though, starting to make some gains a little bit here, a little bit there. Can he close back up, and can we see a fight to the finish?
Also have to think that Travato and Hayes are just going to fully send it from this point on. It's going to be about who can find the grip on the track, or what little is left of it. No help for either car. Nobody around to assist with any draft. It's going to come down to all-out driver ability, as we only have a 1-lap difference on the tires. Brody Hayes at a disadvantage with that, actually. AJ Stravato, 33 laps so far on the stint. Hayes with 34. Remember, this is your front row to start out this race. 195 laps to go. AJ Stravato in P2. Brody Hayes set the pole. And it's looking like it's going to finish exactly that way here between those two. Who's it going to be?
Yeah, Brody got a little tight off of turn 2 right there. He's got the benefit of the draft. You can see it helps him as they get down into the corner. He gains about a quarter tenth, and if he can get a better run through the center, as he's been doing this time, really nice job through 3 and 4, able to close in about a half tenth. Looking at the lap times, it was 0.12 seconds, and at that rate, they'd be nose to nose right there at the start finish line. So this could be a wild one here. We've got the lap cars up the road, but probably not going to play a role, as Hayes now within about 4.5 tenths. Can he close up? He's definitely faster here in 3 and 4, as Travato's starting to slide the back end.
3 to go for the Florida Skin Doctor 300 at Charlotte Motor Speedway. 4 tenths separate first and second place. Brody Hayes just has to finish the race, and he's the regular season champion of season 5. But a win would make it so much better and can continue that hot streak that he's been on. Now, within 2.5 tenths, he's got the draft and 2 laps to go. This is what we're here for, Adam. This is what we know and love at BTDY, are these close late race finishes.
I think we're about
Travato takes that middle high line, and Hayes sticks to the bottom.
It's about to be one of those classic BTDY finishes. Here comes Brody Hayes through 3 and 4, coming back to the white flag. It's 1 car length. It's less than a car length between the top 2 drivers. After 300 miles nearly, they're separated by a bumper, and they've got a lap machine down low. White flag is in the air for the Florida Skin Doctor 300. The final race of the regular season. Hayes to the inside, a little contact. They rub doors down the backstretch. No. Hayes down the hill. Can he clear? Clears Stravato, but he's going to send it in deep. Tags the 37, sends him into the wall. They both struggle to save it. They're hanging on to it. Drag race back to the line. It's going to be a photo finish, and Brody Hayes is going to pull it out. And what a win for the 37.
A win to end the season. As AJ Stravato gets right back into the back bumper, and now we got a pile up down in turn 1 and 2. Bailey Turner gets caught up in it as our P3 finisher. Stravato showing some discontent with how that one played out.
That is an all-time finish here, and yeah, Brody Hayes not making any friends there. Let's go take a look back at the last couple of corners there. What a battle between these two. Stravato got a little wide. Hayes just a little clip of the left rear. Yeah, man, what a finish though, Logan. This was a wild one.
I want to see, after we get through this, let's take it back and get an onboard with the 97 of Mark Cofield and see what this looked like just right in front of him there coming out of turn 2.
Out of turn 2. We're on board here with Cofield as the leaders go on by to the outside. There goes Hayes almost all the way down to the inside wall. And then into turn 3. That's where all hell breaks loose between both of those guys. And it looked so similar to what we saw at Chicagoland between Kyle Larson and Kyle Busch when Larson sent it full all the way there in turns 2, and then Kyle Busch sent it down deep into turn 3, and we got an all-time finish in that one too. This is a very similar looking result, but the car there in front actually held on in this case.
You could almost throw that in the category of any 1-2 finish between Dale Sr. and Jeff Gordon.
Yeah.
That was that's iconic, you know, beating and banging, battling to that checkered flag. And, you know, an incredible job by both of those drivers right there to recover that. And nobody into the wall except for after this tap here. We both get up into the wall here. Stravato actually keeps it off, but does slide out the back end, unable to collect up enough speed to get back around the inside of Brody Hayes. And Brody Hayes with the regular season championship and that final race win.
Yeah.
Adam, what do you say we take it to a quick commercial break here? One last word from our sponsors, and we'll bring it right back here for that post-race show. Interviews with the top 3. And
At Cynthia Rogers, MD Dermatology, we specialize in providing comprehensive expert care for the full spectrum of skin conditions, from complex skin diseases and skin cancer to aging concerns and aesthetic needs. With decades of combined experience in medical, surgical, and aesthetic dermatology, our team brings both deep clinical knowledge and a patient-first approach to every visit. Our practice focuses on developing personalized treatment plans tailored to each individual's skin, health, and life stage. We're located in Port St. Lucie, Florida, in the PSL Professional Center. Learn more or schedule a visit at floridaskindoctor.com.
We've been around since 1946, originated as a scrapyard and evolved into a full-on steel service center, buying and selling new steel products of light fabrication, such as cutting, shearing, bending, threading. We also run a wholesale pipe, valve, and fitting plumbing division, as well as a retail showroom outlet. And then we also are a full-on structural steel fabricator, which is the skeletal steel that you see in commercial and residential structures. We sell to a wide variety of contractors, plumbers, maintenance type personnel, underground utility companies. We sell anything from single nuts and bolts to like a typical hardware store type of feel, one fitting, to full semi-loads of pipes. We're a little deeper in our inventory, and we actually have maybe a little more specialized type of fittings and such. Stock quite a diverse inventory, so we try to keep everything here to keep you guys going.
Backed by 70 years of experience, Duncan Water Systems specializes in commercial and residential water system testing, design, installation, and maintenance. Our mission at Duncan Water Systems is to provide high-quality water solutions to every customer. We pride ourselves on being responsive, honest, and customer-oriented. Our priority is safer water for you and your family. Contact us via call, text, email, or visit us at duncanwatersystems.com.
We're back at Charlotte Motor Speedway at the conclusion of the FloridaSkinDoctor.com 300, the regular season finale, and what a show we saw here tonight. 300 miles, and it came down to a last lap pass for the win by Brody Hayes. Let's take a look at our race results, and we'll interview our top 3 drivers here in just a moment. Brody Hayes able to win in a fierce battle with AJ Stravato on that last lap. Door contact there, hitting the wall, hitting each other, and ultimately the 37 comes out on top. The 33 of AJ Stravato was leading at the white flag, comes up just short here tonight in that second spot. Bailey Turner finishing in the third position after a strong run. Angelo Ronas finishes in fourth. Ryan Gemmel able to salvage a top 5 out of the long pit stop there at the end. James Loveland comes home in 6th. Eric Hutton finishing in the 7th spot. Cody Adkins, one of his best results of the season, finishes in 8th. Chase Coley in 9th. And Mark Cofield could round out the top 10.
In 11th, it's the 63 of Max Cost. Michael Robinson in the 29 pulls out a top 12. That should cement him into the final 12 for the chase for the cup. Paul Hahn in the 25 rounds out in 13th. Zach Smith, our biggest mover in the field on the night, 16 positions gained for the 91, finishes in 14th. Rob Liedl takes home 15th with Dallas Sullivan in the 46 machine, taking home 16th. Keith Mayato in the 36, not the night that he was looking to have, came into it third in the points with hopes for a championship, finishes out 17th, 7 laps down. Jake Maki in the 13 machine finishes out in 18th after heavy damage in that first, only wreck that we had all race long. Does stick it out for the long haul. Takes home 18th. Jeremiah Hobbs in the 31 gets 19th with Christian Blackwell rounding out our top 20.
In 21st here tonight, it was the 23 machine of Ray Massey. 22nd, Chris Samard. 23rd was Colton Freymiller. 24th, Adrian Loya. 25th was Levi Cox in his battle for the regular season championship. Going to come up a bit short here tonight. Ryan Phillips comes home in the 26th position. 27th was Noah Mahalski. 28th was Alan Dice. 29th, Dennis Faircloth. And rounding out our 30-car field tonight was Lucas Lyons. And we're now going to head trackside and talk to our third place finisher, and that is Bailey Turner, who had a strong run this evening. And we'll see if we can get him up into the booth here to have a quick chat with us. Hey Bailey, this is Adam and Logan in the VSPEED booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, I got you guys.
Well, a long and wild race here. It was incredibly fierce battling at the beginning of the race. We had a long green flag run, and the strategy came into play a little bit. You were up there in the mix. Got collected a little bit there in the late going, but just describe the evening and what was going through your mind there in the last 10 laps especially.
Yeah, kind of a interesting race. You know, I really felt like as the leader, it was a little bit of a detriment throughout the run. The clean air, the car just was so loose, and you saw so many guys up there that you know, they can hang out up front for a while, including myself, and you just start to lose that right rear, and you know, the car handled better in traffic. So and then yeah, we had that first yellow, and that kind of turned it into a little bit of a fuel mileage race. If you saved just like a lap or two of fuel, you were pretty much good to make it there each run, and that's mostly what, yeah, I don't know if you could tell in the booth, but that's most of us were fuel saving pretty much that entire race, and until that last run. And yeah, really did some hard saving that second to last run to have a little bit of a better chance with tires in front of with the guys in front of me and around me and everything. And yeah, you know, really battling hard there with my teammate AJ, keeping it clean, fun, and yeah, just unfortunately got ran over. Don't really know how else to put it. It was pretty disappointing. I feel like I've raced, you know, Brody really clean all season. I've had many chances and opportunities to punt him out of the way or do certain things when he's blocking and stuff like that, and have really done my best to keep it clean. So yeah, just got to remember that going forward into the playoffs. You know, he's got a little more to lose than I do, with him being in the points lead and everything. So we will pocket that and move on to the next one.
Yeah, I was gonna say, he didn't make any friends here tonight. You know, you got a little contact with him, and then the 33, you know, they battled hard there that last lap, a lot of contact there. So definitely going to be an interesting chase for the championship. But, you know, you've had an amazing run so far through the regular season, even missing a handful of races. You're right up there in the top 4 in points. So, you know, we're going to Rockingham to kick things off for the chase. How do you feel about going out there?
Yeah, never really enjoyed Rockingham too much, I'll be honest. But, you know, I think it's going to be a lot of the same guys up front. That track really is good for, you know, a lot of guys on that can run really good on the short tracks and everything. And manage their tires, and it's going to be the same old show up front, and probably a little beating and banging, and yeah, we'll just have to see what happens. At least I know I don't have to pull any punches anymore, so it'll be fun going forward.
Well, definitely know how you're feeling out there, and you put on a great show, led a lot of laps here tonight, and end up coming home on the podium, and get to go on to the chase now and really compete for that championship. And everybody pretty much on a level playing field for the most part. So gonna be excited to see you out there, Bailey. Anybody you want to give a shout out to for tonight's third place run?
Yeah, just all the teammates. It was really cool having all of us show up tonight, and all up there in contention at the end with all the different strategies and things like that. Angelo putting together a really good run, and of course feel bad for Eric getting caught up in that mess when I got turned off of 4. So shout out to him, and yeah, just feel for AJ. He was lapping, what is it, half a lap away from $100 and gets punted. So I feel worse for him than I do myself. So yeah, like I said, we'll go on to the next one, and also thank you guys in the broadcast and all the admins putting the league together, and of course all the league sponsors.
Awesome, Bailey. Well, thanks for taking some time here and chatting with us. I know it's probably a lot of emotions running through your mind, like you said, but go celebrate the top 3, and excited to see how you can fare in the chase here this season, and finally seek that first championship here in BTDY. Congrats again, and have a great night, man.
Appreciate it, boys.
That is Bailey Turner, third place finisher. We're now going to go to second place. That is going to be Mr. AJ Stravato, and Logan, I believe you're with him.
Yeah, we've caught up with AJ Stravato, and well, the Italian Stallion, let's just get right to it. Cut into it like a hot knife through butter. I know there's some high emotions. We've already talked with your teammate. Tell me about that last lap.
Yeah, I don't really have much nice to say about Brody. He's always raced me pretty dirty. He's always the first one to complain, but the last one to take accountability. And I think if you heard anything through voice chat or the radio, that good to see nothing changes. So I had to go a little bit higher for the lap car, kind of off-centered my line, and I just got drove right into. So tried to return the favor in turn 3, and by then, I mean, these cars are so durable. I was sliding doing it, so is what it is. He needs the $100 more than I do, that's for sure. So it's unfortunate that people got a race like that consistently and be the first ones to complain, but the last ones to take accountability, wrecking the entire top 6, including a teammate of his. But I mean, if he wants to keep racing like that, I'm sure somebody will repay the favor in the playoffs. So is what it is. I had a lot of fun out there, and at the end of the day, that's why we do this. So.
Well, you were bad fast out there all night long. The statistics show it. You spent quite a bit of time, nearly half the race in the lead. And we had the thought of the fuel strategy, the tire strategy, and all of that. Now, what was the team chat like making those strategy calls? Was it pretty unified, or do we have some arguments or anything within the team on when to come down, when to make that call?
I think everybody was on the fuel saving strategy from the get-go right there. I saw that if you saved a little bit, you could easily be good on gas, and we were all doing that, just making sure we all kind of stayed within the draft together. A lot of clutching. Bailey kind of fuel saved a little bit differently than I did, and I was clutching going into each corner, I think, for the most part. So I was able to keep pretty good pace, and kept the tires on me pretty well from doing that. But coming to that last run, we were plenty set on fuel. I think everybody's goal was to go as long as they could, so they had the proper tires at the end right there. And being out in the lead, I'm sure Bailey said it, your right rear would just get absolutely cooked out there in the clean air. It was almost a preference to be in the dirty air, so keep the car a little bit more so underneath you. So obviously, towards the end, I was out there most of that run until the last half of the last lap, I'd say, out in front. So I definitely burnt up the rear a little bit more than I would have liked to, but definitely wish I could have done that last lap a little bit differently in terms of just knowing where the lap car was going to be and just being able to kind of get out of the corner a little bit better. But hard to make it out of the corner when you get driven in through by the same guy who is the first one to complain. So here's what it is.
Well, one last question for you, AJ. Short and sweet. Not quite in the chase for the cup this season, but do we expect to see that 33 out on the track as we make our way through that part of the schedule?
That's the hope and goal. I'll try and make it to a couple of tracks and a couple of races. My schedule's a little bit busier with work and life on Tuesdays, so we run when we can, and if we have time, if wifey's in coordinates with me per se, but um, we'll make a couple of races. Just hopefully the 37 isn't around me because I'm not cutting an inch in the room.
Well, although P2 might not be the way you want it to finish, it's still nothing to scoff at. 93 laps led. AJ Stravato, fantastic race all night long. You put on one hell of a show week after week. Who do you have to say thanks to for P2 here in the Florida Skin Doctor 300?
Florida Skin Doctor for hopping on board. I think that's pretty cool to have $100 for people to race for. My teammates Bailey, Eric, and Angelo for the good runs until the 37 decided to be the 37, and Nexus C Sports for on the road and oval side of things. Always a great group of guys over there. And shout out to Brody. Hopefully, he takes some accountability next time he does something stupid.
There you have it, folks. Probably the most heated interview that I've had so far, Adam. Yeah. Congratulations, AJ. Let's move right on to P1, I guess.
AJ never won.
I'm in a shock. I knew he was mad, but I didn't know it was gonna be that bad.
Yeah, AJ never wanted to mince words, and he'll tell you how he's feeling, and I appreciate that about him. It's always been that way, and I don't see that changing. I don't think he should change for him. So
absolutely not. That's the best thing as a personality.
Oh yeah, we love the Italian stallion out here. He's made some of these races better than you could ever expect, and always fun to see him on the racetrack and here in the booth as well. I guess we'll go to victory lane and pull up our winner, Brody Hayes. This is Adam and Logan in the VSPEED booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, gotcha.
Well, I'm sure it's probably not the way you wanted to do it here tonight. Made likely a couple of enemies out there this evening, but you get the victory. You get the $100 after a brutal, long 300-mile race here tonight at Charlotte. How are you feeling? How's that last lap going through your mind here?
I mean, yeah, it was a long race between the fuel saving, the tire strategy, being packed up. I mean, it had a little bit of everything. I know, I'm sure it was pretty exciting to watch. Yeah, I didn't make any friends. I heard the interviews. I know I got a bunch coming to me as the year's gonna go on, and that's fine. It just got loose under Bailey. I mean, it's simple as that. Just you got 10 to go, 11 to go, and tried to stay in it and keep next to him. It just got loose, and I caught him just a little bit, and I checked up and I let him gather it, and I thought we were good. And I mean, the 88 never checked up and just drove into me, so I don't. But I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I'll take the blame for that one. And then AJ, I ran him down and just he was high off at 2, and I got to his right rear or left rear, and I wanted to kind of stay there and side draft him down the backstretch, and we made a little contact. And it's iRacing, man. You get stuck together sometimes. It ain't gonna be perfect. I don't want to fucking drive through them to win the race. We made contact, and I turned hard left to keep from really wrecking him, and he tried to clean me out going into 3, and that's fine. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. It's it's hard racing, and what goes around comes around, and I'm sure I'll be on the receiving end of it before the year's done.
Yeah, very.
In hard racing, that's the only way to really describe it. That was a full-on battle for the top 9. We've mentioned it multiple times, didn't we, Adam?
Yeah, just incredible racing at the beginning of the night, and then you had the fuel mileage, and then at the end, really just nose to tail, full out brawl, and you were right there in the midst of all of it. At the end, very reminiscent of the Kyle Larson finish at Chicagoland. Almost, if you look back at it, it's kind of almost identical, and you ended up on the winning side of it though, being the car in front there, going into turn 3. But yeah, I mean, you won the regular season championship. You win this final race. You know, how does the momentum feel then headed into Rockingham, a track, you know, I know you're very confident at to kick off the chase?
Yeah, I mean, it's always good to go into the playoffs here with a lot of momentum, you know, coming off a win and everything. So hopefully we can put, I don't know, is it 10 races or whatever together and come out on top again. You know, this is kind of really when the season starts. You know, we've had good momentum all year and been racing hard all year with the same people, you know, so I'm sure it's going to be more of the same.
Yeah, Logan, you got any questions for Brody here before we close up shop today?
Well, you know, I guess really the only thing, I don't want to rub salt in the wound or anything like that, but you know, you've mentioned the potential of some sort of retaliation. We were talking about, you know, next week kicking off the chase for the championship. So going through that schedule, starting off at Rockingham, where you're feeling pretty comfortable at, Kansas, Watkins Glen, Iowa, Michigan, Dega, Homestead as the championship race, Bristol as the penultimate race. Is there any track that really stands out to you where, you know, you might either see that retaliation being the most probable, or any spots where you're just really looking forward to getting out there and, you know, proving why you're taking home this regular season championship tonight?
I mean, I think we have a shot to win at every single one of those tracks. As for the retaliation that's been promised and is coming from, you know, probably 2 or 3, I'm sure the whole team, if they have it their way, which is fine. But I mean, it's probably going to come next week. It could come the week after. It could come to Watkins Glen. I'm sure whenever they get to me, they're going to hit me, and that's fine. It's how they always race. They race hard. They race aggressive. I race hard. I race aggressive. So it comes to a head from time to time. And you know, tonight was one of those times, and I'll be on the receiving end of it, you know, too. So no, the chase. I mean, chase is going to be. It's going to be tight. It's going to be a lot of good racing. Kansas is going to be pack racing in these things. It's just how they are. Michigan's going to be the same way. You know, so it's kind of 8 races of wild cards, and you know, whoever can come out, you know, clean and be consistent is going to come out on top.
I think you pretty well hit the nail on the head there. Adam, anything else for race winner tonight?
No,
regular season champion.
Yeah, regular season champion. Definitely a fantastic run for you here. I think this is your 4th win here in the first 12 races, so definitely on a hot streak. I believe even the first few races you were close, but had pit road issues that kept you out of victory lane for a little while. So definitely strong string of races here. Anybody want to give a shout out to for the victory tonight here and at Charlotte?
Yeah, I'll give you know, the admins, everybody at BTDY that, you know, puts this on. Florida Skin Doctor for coming on board tonight and putting a little money on the line. That's pretty cool. You know, you guys up in the booth. I'll be going back to watch this one as always, but this one's going to be probably a little bit more exciting. Go back and kind of rewatch and see what I could have done differently, or you know, I mean, see what else happened that maybe I've missed. But yeah, that's about it. On to next week.
Awesome, Brody. Well, thanks so much for taking some time here and putting on a great show for us tonight as well. Made it very exciting there in that final lap and the final few runs of this race. And congrats on your 4th win, your regular season championship, and we'll see you next week as we kick off the chase.
Sounds good. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. That is your race winner, regular season champion, Brody Hayes, with his 4th victory of the season here, coming in the FloridaSkinDoctor.com 300. Logan, what a fantastic night of racing we saw here at Charlotte. This was a wild one. It had a little bit of everything, and man, I'm glad to be able to call it with you here, and I'm excited for this chase to kick off.
Absolutely. Happy to be here on these Tuesday nights. Always look forward to some BTDY coverage. And man, oh man, if we thought the racing was hot tonight, just wait until we kick off this chase. It's going to get even more intense as we have to narrow down 12 drivers to just one champion. It's going to be all out. It's going to be a battle. You thought there was beating and banging on the doors tonight? Just wait until we get to Rockingham. Just wait until we get to Bristol. And most importantly, my favorite track, Homestead, to settle it all here in the Florida Skin Doctor BTDY Racing Series. It has been a season here for season number 5, Adam.
Yeah, so much fun, so much great racing each and every week. Thanks for tuning in here tonight on VSPEED. Want to give a big shout out to all of the VSPEED team for helping put this stuff together. Bradley Cooper, Logan Threlkeld, Eddie Smith, Morgan Cook, and so many others. Myself, Adam Baker here. And thank you so much for watching. We will catch you next week as we kick things off at Rockingham. Until then, have a great night.